At a restaurant, the waiter slipped me the bill with a folded note. I opened it and read 4 words that made my heart stop. Leave through the kitchen. Confused, I looked up at him and whispered, "Why?" He leaned closer, his face tight with urgency, and said just one word, "Now." Seconds later, the front door was blocked. If you love stories that pull you in from the very first moment, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. My name is Isabella Marquez, but everyone calls me Izzy. I'm 24, and this all happened on a night that was supposed to be joyful, simple, and safe. My mom, Elena, had just earned a promotion at work. It was a big deal, the kind she'd been grinding toward for years. My little sister, Maya, and I decided to take her out to celebrate. Nothing fancy, just a cozy, family-owned Italian restaurant in town. The kind with red and white checkered tablecloths, warm lighting, and the smell of garlic bread drifting through the air. Soft music played in the background, blending with the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. The place was busy, full of families and couples enjoying dinner. It felt familiar and comforting, the kind of place where you let your guard down without even realizing it. My mom looked radiant that night. She'd raised us on her own after my dad left, and she'd done it with strength and quiet determination. Elena is the kind of woman who gives everything she has to the people she loves. I wanted her to enjoy this moment without stress, without worry. Maya, my 17-year-old sister, sat across from me, pretending to be bored by Mom's long stories, rolling her eyes while smiling at the same time. She has a sharp mouth and a soft heart. She teases me relentlessly, yet she's the first one to sneak into my room during thunderstorms. As we laughed over plates of pasta and toasted to Mom's success, I remember thinking how rare the moment felt. No deadlines, no responsibilities, just food, family, and the illusion that nothing bad could reach us here. I had no idea that within minutes, everything would fracture. The same night that started with laughter and garlic bread would end with fear, confusion, and a desperate escape through the back of that restaurant. It all changed when the bill arrived. Our waiter, Daniel, approached the table with his usual polite smile, but something about him felt off. His eyes were tense and his movements quick and nervous, like he couldn't wait to get away. He set the check holder down in front of me with a short nod. I barely glanced at it until I opened it. Inside, tucked beside the receipt, was a folded piece of paper. At first, I thought it was a coupon or some promotional slip. Then I unfolded it. My stomach dropped instantly. The handwriting was rushed, uneven. The ink was smudged, like it had been written in a hurry. Leave through the kitchen. Don't look back. My fingers tightened around the note. For a split second, I wondered if it was a joke, a strange mistake. But when I looked up at Daniel, he was watching me closely, his expression serious and urgent. I mouthed, "Why?" His jaw tightened, and he leaned in just enough to whisper a single word that sent ice through my veins. "Now." Seconds later, the front door was blocked. My mom noticed my face immediately. "Izzy, what's wrong?" she asked quietly. I slid the note beneath my plate, not wanting Maya to panic, but she noticed anyway. "What's going on?" she whispered. Before I could answer, the entire mood of the restaurant shifted. The front door slammed open hard enough to make the glasses on nearby tables rattle. 3 men walked in. They weren't wearing masks or uniforms, but something about them was deeply wrong. Their eyes moved sharply around the room, scanning faces with purpose. The tallest one stopped in the doorway, broad shoulders blocking the exit completely. Conversation died instantly. Forks froze mid-air, chairs stopped scraping. A heavy, suffocating silence spread through the room. My mom reached across the table and grabbed my hand, her grip firm. Maya's knee bounced under the table as she whispered, "Izzy, who are they?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. All I knew was that Daniel's warning was real, and whatever was unfolding was dangerous enough for him to risk slipping me that note. These men weren't here to eat. They were here for control. One of them spoke quietly to the hostess, her face drained of color as she shook her head and backed away. Another man positioned himself near the door like a guard. Daniel reappeared near the bar, pretending to clear glasses, but his eyes flicked towards me. He gave a subtle nod towards the swinging door leading to the kitchen. The message was clear. Leave now. My mom leaned closer. What did the note say? She whispered. I swallowed hard. He wants us to go through the kitchen. Maya's eyes widened. Why? What's happening? Before I could answer, the tall man's voice cut through the room. Low, firm. Nobody leaves. The air felt tighter. The other two men started moving between tables, scanning faces, asking sharp questions. My heart slammed against my ribs. I knew if we stayed seated, their attention would eventually land on us, and once it did, I had no idea what would happen. Daniel brushed past our table again, pretending to refill a glass, and muttered under his breath, "Trust me, move when they're distracted." Then he was gone. Maya grabbed my sleeve. "Izzy, what do we do?" I squeezed her hand, forcing my voice to stay steady. "We listened to him." The men continued their slow sweep through the restaurant. A chair scraped loudly somewhere behind us, making everyone flinch. The tension was unbearable. Finally, my mom spoke, her voice calm but decisive. "If we're going, it has to be now." I looked at Daniel one last time. He met my eyes, nodded, and tilted his head towards the kitchen door. My mom looked at me, fear and resolve mixing in her expression. She'd always been the one who made the hard calls. Her hand tightened around mine. "We can't stay here," she whispered. Maya shook her head, clutching her fork like it could protect her. "What if they see us?" "If we wait, they will," I said quietly. "We don't have a choice." Then the opportunity came. One of the men raised his voice at another table, demanding answers. Heads turned. The distraction was brief, but it was enough. Daniel passed by our table again, weaving through racks of dishes, his face pale, and gave a tiny nod. "Now," I whispered. We slid out of the booth as quietly as possible. My mom kept a hand on Maya's shoulder. I led the way, every step pounding in my ears. The kitchen door felt impossibly far away. Each table we passed felt like a spotlight. When the tallest man scanned the room again, his eyes brushed dangerously close to us. "Keep going," my mom murmured. A sudden crash echoed behind us as a tray of glasses hit the floor. Everyone jumped. I froze, certain we'd been noticed. Then I saw Daniel standing over the spill, hands raised, playing the part. He caught my eye and nodded. "Go." The kitchen door was just ahead. I pushed it open and we slipped through. Heat and noise slammed into us. Steam hissed, pots clanged, orders were shouted in 2 languages. The chaos swallowed us instantly. No one questioned our presence. For a moment, it felt like cover. My mom leaned close. "Where's the exit?" I scanned the room and spotted the red glow of an emergency exit sign at the far end. That was our only way out. Daniel appeared again, weaving through racks of dishes, his face pale, and motioned towards the door. "This way," he hissed. "Don't stop." We followed him, moving fast through the crowded kitchen, weaving past cooks and clattering trays. My mom stayed right behind me, steering Maya forward. The heat and noise of the kitchen wrapped around us, but all I could hear was the pounding of my heart in my ears. Halfway across, the swinging door behind us burst open. One of the men from the front stormed in, his eyes scanning the kitchen with sharp, dangerous focus. The clatter of pots stopped. A cook cursed under his breath. The air turned heavy, tense, as if everyone in the room sensed the danger immediately. Daniel turned his head slightly towards us, his voice a harsh whisper. "Don't look back. Keep moving." I gripped Maya's hand tighter, pushed forward, my legs moving faster, even as fear threatened to lock them in place. I could hear the man's footsteps behind us, heavy and quick. My skin prickled as I imagined his eyes sweeping the room, narrowing in on us, realizing what we were doing. The emergency exit loomed ahead, closer now, just a few more steps. My mom's breath was ragged behind me, Maya's hand timbering in mine. I could feel the chase building, the moment when everything would snap into motion. This was it, the choice Daniel had forced into our hands: trust him completely and run, or hesitate and risk being caught. I didn't hesitate. I pushed towards the door with everything in me, knowing the next few seconds would change everything. The emergency exit was just ahead, glowing red like a lifeline in the chaos of the kitchen. I pulled Maya with me, my chest heaving, every step feeling heavier than the last. My mom was right behind me, her hand pressed against Maya's back to keep her moving. The sounds of the kitchen, the clatter of pans, the hiss of steam, the shouts of cooks, blurred together into a wall of noise. But over it all, I heard the distinct slam of heavy boots on tile. The intruder was inside. "Keep going," Daniel shouted from behind us. His voice cut through the chaos like a knife. I didn't dare look back, but I knew he had stayed behind, trying to slow the man down. I heard the scrape of a metal tray being thrown, the crash of dishes shattering on the floor, followed by a grunt of anger. Daniel was buying us time, but time was running out. The door was so close I could almost touch it, but before we reached it, another figure burst into the kitchen from the dining room. My stomach dropped. It was the second man. He spotted us immediately, his eyes locking on me like a predator. He barked something to his partner, and they both started toward us. My mom's hand pressed harder against Maya's back. "Faster," she urged, her voice a mix of fear and fierce determination. I pushed my legs harder, but the kitchen seemed endless. The cooks had frozen mid-motion, their eyes wide, some clutching utensils as if they wanted to help, but didn't know how. We reached the final stretch. The glowing exit sign was directly above us now. My hand reached out, fingers brushing the cold metal of the push bar. Relief surged through me for a split second, until I heard the footsteps pounding closer. I shoved the door open with all my strength. The metal bar gave way and the cool night air rushed in. Maya stumbled through first, then my mom. But as I started to push out, a rough hand clamped down on my arm and yanked me back. I screamed. The alley outside blurred as fear shot through me like lightning. The man had caught me. His grip was iron, his face inches from mine, his teeth bared in a twisted grin. "Where do you think you're going?" he hissed. My mom's voice split the air. "Let her go!" She lunged forward, grabbing onto my other arm, pulling me with all her strength. Maya was crying, shouting my name. For a terrifying moment, I was caught between them, my arm burning as I fought against his grip. Then Daniel appeared out of nowhere. He barreled into the man with the force of someone who had nothing left to lose. They slammed into a counter, sending pots and utensils clattering to the floor. The man's grip broke, and I stumbled free, my knees nearly buckling. "Go!" Daniel shouted again, his voice raw. He was on the ground now, wrestling with the man, trying to pin him down. The second intruder lunged forward, but one of the cooks shoved a rolling cart into his path, knocking him sideways. The kitchen erupted into chaos, yells, crashes, the smell of something burning. My mom yanked me through the doorway, slamming the emergency exit shut behind us. We spilled into the alley, gasping for air. The night was cool and sharp against my overheated skin. Maya clung to me, sobbing into my shoulder, while my mom held both of us close, her arms shaking as much as mine. But the danger wasn't over. The sound of the door banging from the inside echoed in the alley. They were trying to follow us. Then headlights swept across the brick wall, and the screech of tires filled the air. A police cruiser pulled up fast, sirens wailing. 2 officers jumped out, guns drawn, shouting commands. The banging on the kitchen door stopped instantly. Whoever was inside must have realized their time was up. The officers rushed past us into the building, shouting for the suspects to get on the ground. The alley was suddenly filled with flashing red and blue lights, painting the walls with their glow. I stood frozen, my chest heaving, my body trembling so violently I thought I might collapse. Daniel stumbled out moments later, one side of his shirt torn, his face pale with exhaustion. He looked at us and managed a small, tired smile. "You made it." his voice. I wanted to thank him, to tell him he had saved our lives, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I just nodded, tears spilling down my face. The officers returned with the two men in handcuffs, their expressions dark and furious. Seeing them restrained should have made me feel safe, but instead it sent another chill down my spine. These men had walked into a crowded restaurant with purpose, and that purpose had been us. I didn't know why, but I knew it wasn't random. As the officers loaded them into the cruiser, Maya whispered, "They would have heard us. I know they would have." My mom hugged us both tighter, her voice breaking. "We're okay. That's what matters. We're okay." But even as she said it, I knew that night had changed everything. The restaurant, once warm and comforting, had become the place where I learned how quickly safety could vanish, and how sometimes a stranger's warning is the only reason you survive. When the flashing red and blue lights faded and the restaurant grew quiet again, the weight of what had just happened finally sank in. I sat on the curb outside with my mom and Maya pressed against me, our bodies still trembling from the adrenaline. The night air felt colder now, every sound sharper. I kept replaying the moment the man's hand had grabbed me, the roughness of his grip, the way his words had cut into me like a knife. It didn't feel real that I was sitting here free, with my family alive and unharmed. Daniel leaned against the wall a few feet away, his shirt torn, his face sweaty and pale. Even then, he still tried to smile, though it was clear he was exhausted. One of the officers spoke with him, taking his statement, while another sat down next to me and gently asked questions. "Do you know these men? Did they speak to you before?" I shook my head again and again. "No, I've never seen them in my life." That was the truth, but the truth didn't make me feel safer. The police explained that the men were connected to robberies at local restaurants and businesses. They had been intimidating owners, threatening staff, and sometimes targeting customers. That night, for reasons no one could fully explain, they had set their sights on us. Daniel had noticed them outside before we even arrived. He recognized their faces from previous incidents and knew the moment they walked in that something bad was about to happen. His decision to slip me that note was what gave us a chance. My mom sat with her arm around me, her voice breaking as she whispered, "If he hadn't warned us." She didn't finish the sentence. We all knew how it could have ended. Maya, usually so sarcastic and playful, was uncharacteristically quiet. Her face was buried in my shoulder, and she clung to me like she was afraid I might vanish if she let go. When the officers finally said we could leave, my mom thanked Daniel over and over, her eyes filled with tears. He waved it off with humility, saying, "I just did what anyone should do." But I knew better. Not everyone would have risked themselves the way he had. He didn't just warn us, he fought for us, buying us the precious seconds we needed to get out. The drive home was silent, except for Maya's soft sniffles in the back seat. I stared out the window at the passing streetlights, each glow reminding me of how fragile normally could be. Just hours earlier, we had been laughing over pasta, celebrating my mom's promotion. It was supposed to be a perfect night. Instead, it had turned into a memory that would never leave us. At home, my dad, who had been working late, rushed to meet us at the door. The moment he saw our shaken faces, he pulled us into his arms without asking a single question. My mom's voice cracked as she told him what happened, and his jaw tightened, anger flashing in his eyes. But when he looked at me and Maya, his expression softened. "You're safe, that's all that matters," he said, holding us like he would never let go. That night, none of us slept. We sat together in the living room, the TV playing softly in the background, though none of us were really watching it. Maya curled up under a blanket, still trembling, while my mom and dad whispered to each other about what the police had told them. I sat there in the middle of it all, feeling both fragile and grateful. Fragile because I had learned how quickly safety could be ripped away. Grateful because, despite everything, we were still together. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop thinking about Daniel.
his face, his urgency, his bravery. It stayed with me. When we went back to the restaurant to thank him again, he just smiled and said, "You don't owe me anything. Just take care of each other." That line stuck in my heart. It reminded me that even in the darkest moments, there are people in this world willing to stand up, even for strangers. The lesson I carried from that night was simple but powerful. Danger doesn't always announce itself. It can appear in the middle of a celebration in a place you thought was safe. But just as true is this: sometimes the smallest actions, like a waiter slipping a note, can mean the difference between tragedy and survival. Now, whenever I sit in a restaurant, I find myself scanning the room, my instincts sharper than they used to be. It isn't paranoia, it's awareness. That night changed me. It showed me the value of trust, the importance of listening when someone sees danger before you do, and the strength of family when everything feels like it's falling apart. I will never forget the sound of Daniel's voice when he said, "Now." That single word saved our lives. And I'll never forget how my mom's steady hand, my sister's trembling grip, and a stranger's bravery carried us through the scariest night of my life. If you want more stories that keep you on the edge of your seat and make you think about the strength of family and strangers, make sure to subscribe to my channel and comment where you're watching.